Yes, we are online now. It's live.
Great, great, great.
So just a second. I'll. Okay. Yeah. So good morning, everyone. Uh, like, we we have not prepared like a speech, but I'll just brief everyone here. So hope you are well, like wherever you are indoors, and these are basically sessions where NID Gandhinagar alumni will talk about their work, what they do, how they started their practice working on interesting ideas. We have some like entrepreneurs, some artists, some people are individual researchers, people are doing interesting work in different companies. So over the few weekends we'll try to get uh, people uh, on different talks, and you can find all the sessions information this we like some of us like Arvind, Nalini, Kabya, Ashish, like we were just discussing, we are like mostly we were doing Bata sessions when we were there in the campus, and then we thought let's do this now. Then Vasudha is there. I think I'll ask her to join the stage. Yeah, Vasudha had made interesting illustrations on campus, so I just asked her if she want to give that illustration as a poster. And hi, Vasudha.
Hi. Okay, I am trying to. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if my mic is working. Sorry.
Your mic
No,
is
you are
working,
audible.
but your
We
camera
can hear.
is off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm not in a condition to open my
No
camera. I
problem.
think.
No problem. Totally fine. So Vasudha made that artwork which is on the poster, and over the next few, like every week, we'll have a different artwork. So we have like sessions and artworks for next 3 weeks, and we're trying to like curate in a way that different people are from different backgrounds and different disciplines are top. So without taking much time, I think without taking much time, I'll like bring Anoop to the stage to start the session,
Hi.
and we'll all go like off from the stage. Yeah. So anyone want to talk or speak something? You can raise hand in the right side, and then we can like get you on the stage. So this is a little different than Zoom, because in Zoom everyone by default has the mic on option. Here we don't have. So okay, Anoop, over to you.
Hey.
I think yeah. So just a very one-line introduction. Anoop is from TAD 2012 batch, and he is like heading this company Agrima Tech, and he'll now talk about his journey, how he started. So first Anup will talk, and then we'll open the floor. Anyone who want to join, you can just do the raise hand, and if required, you can. If you are on mobile or tablet, you can type your question in the chat. So we will try to share that with Anup. Yeah, Anup,
Yeah.
here you go.
Uh, Thanks, Bhargav. Am I audible for everyone?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, you are audible. Yeah.
Okay. So thanks, Bhargav, for inviting or for this initiative because all the people behind it. I'd like to thank everyone because NID there used to be NID has a very strong alumni network, but Gandhinagar as it is disconnected between alumni, and this kind of events will definitely help. Myself Anoop Balakrishnan. I was NID TAD 2012 to 15, and then I started my own startup, and it's called Agrimatech. So I would like to explain my journey in two different phases. Like I had a startup before joining NID. I just continued that startup after NID. So I have two phases of my stories, which I before NID how was it, and after NID how was it. So there is a lot of difference in before NID and after NID. That's where I would like to focus on and I'd like to speak about. So my journey started like startup journey started long back in 2010, 11, where I just after my engineering graduation, few of my friends like uh, classmates, we started a startup. The name of the startup was Agrima Infotech. So the reason for the name was simple. So we are into robotics and artificial intelligence, and we created a humanoid robot. The name of robot was Agrima. So we called it as like artificially guided robot with intelligent movement innovated. All this bullshit, but we got obsessed with the name, and then we started the company like that. And we worked on the company. Our first product was like we started a small office on top of one of my colleagues, one of my co-founders' house, terrace, and we started building softwares. So I was basically from computer science background. All of us was building softwares. But I do like cars. I always dreamed of becoming an automobile designer. Then I used to try applying to NID and other places. And then we started the company. 1 year down the line, we got introduced to Startup Village. It's a incubator here in Kochi, where I went there. And the first product was we built for BlackBerry. So there was a phone called BlackBerry a few years ago, and we built a Siri clone for BlackBerry. So basically, it's like a personal assistant for BlackBerry. It was called Wiki, and BlackBerry funded us for the project. Like they gave the money to build that product, and we started building the project, and then the app came in the market, and it was doing well, but it took a lot of time for us to build that app. As an engineer mindset, we sat behind the app for like 1 year or something, so that we want to make it look more better than Siri and things like that. So and later when we launched our app into the market, the BlackBerry died. BlackBerry, there was no hardly any uses for BlackBerry, and we lost our business. At the same time, that is a tough time in my startup life, which we failed miserably, and we want to join. Then I got admitted to NID. I got when I applied to NID, I tried for interface design and transportation design. So interface design is what I was doing in my startup, and then there was this thing, uh, transportation design. So I want to choose between which one to join, and I decided to join transportation instead of interface design. And then it was a different journey there with my NID thing. I had tough time in NID in the beginning because I was good at sketching, but I was not really good at sketching cars. It took some time, all those like interaction with seniors and all those things. It was tough time for me to adjust in NID because of my skill set. Because all people around me was like super skilled with the sketching and all those things, but I tried to learn all those things, and then in fact, I did some couple of good projects in NID, which was appreciated outside. one of my project on an autonomous truck Volvo concept, which has got a lot of a lot of interest in all those things. But one of my friend who was my roommate, his name is Saugat. He was like one of the person who was he motivated me more to do this, go back and join a startup and do all those things. I was happy with what I'm doing at NID, but I think at the final year of NID, we together applied for a competition called PACE competition, where Praveen Nahar was our mentor, and we were invited to Italy, touring to for the finals of this PACE competition. And me, Saugat, and Praveen Nahar fly to Italy for that event, and eventually we won that PACE competition event. And then where we met, we've been to Pininfarina, we met all those seniors like Rustam Masta and all those things. We spent some time there, and after seeing all those things, I decided I should go back and do my startup again. I'll see how the automobile designers work. It's a pretty good job, but I wanted to do my startup again. And so when I came back from that, I had to do my final thesis for NID. And I had two choices. Either I go and do a typical transportation design project and get a job in a good design studio, or if I don't care about joining a company, since I'm going to start my own, I decided I don't need to do that. I'll focus on I'll do a project which will help in my startup journey and do that. So my final project was around autonomous cars. Like I was fascinated about the system design class in NID, and I thought I would research about autonomous cars in India, how those things will work in India, and things like that. And I started. And I was looking for sponsors for that, and then there are only two companies then working on autonomous cars. Like one is Google, and then other one is Tesla, and all those people. And I didn't have access to those people to ask for a sponsorship. But the same time, that time I came back to Kochi. I was just thinking about working on my startup. I joined the same startup with two other co-founders. They're still running the startup, so I joined it, and then the same time, Google had a visit. Top officials of Google, Facebook, and all those people visited Startup Village in Kochi. And then I got to meet Rajan Anandan, the head of Google India. Then so we had a dinner session after the event where 5 or 6 startups were selected for that, and we went there and I talked to him and I pitched for this my thesis. I would like to do this transportation design project as my thesis, and then he didn't really understand what I was trying to explain, but he forwarded me to one of his colleagues in Google. And after multiple emails, I landed up in Google X Labs, who are actually building this autonomous cars, and they told that they'll support my project, and that's how I started my thesis project. So my thesis project was fun. So I traveled across India with a GoPro camera and shoot all the traffic, what's happening in the cities and the rural areas. And so it was very random. So Praveen Mahar was my mentor. So one thing he always says is that you need to be quite open about what you're doing. So when you're doing a research project, you don't need to worry about what's happening at the end. So I started traveling across India, shooting images, and then I created a thesis where there was I from my research I identify why this kind of traffic is happening in India. There are so many peculiar qualities or characteristics of Indian traffic. I try to extract that, and then what? Yeah, I created the project. So idea was to how Indian traffic could inspire a self-driving cars of the future. So I was fascinated by this computer vision, all those technological stuff, and then how this could relate to what's happening in India. And the final outcome of the project was there was a pretty car part of it, but fundamentally, I created a speculative design model where anyone who want to start an autonomous car thing in India could refer to and identify what's happening in India and things like that. It was a fun project. So yeah, and after that, I went back to my startup, and we so I need to start from the scratch. I didn't have any product there. We have been doing some random services project there. So we again went back to a drawing board, and we had this chatbot. We made from the wiki personal assistant thing. We made a chatbot like it was in 2015. We created a chatbot for enterprises. So now you see a lot of chatbots people speaking about, and we created a chatbot for Ask Me Bazaar. It was an e-commerce platform back then. And there's an interesting story till that, like whichever company we work with, they will stop after we deliver the project. So this is another story of another company called Ask Me Bazaar. So we made a smartphone chatbot. So if you go to a Ask Me Bazaar, you want to buy a smartphone, there'll be a chatbot. It will pop up and you can talk to it. And we built that product and we delivered to Ask Me Bazaar. And something happened to the whole startup, and they literally failed, and we couldn't kick off. And at the same time, we were staying together in an apartment, and we were figuring out what to do next. And since we were connected to all those e-commerce companies, and then we created a visual search engine for e-commerce. So technically, it's where you snap an image of a shoes or a t-shirt, the app will redirect you to an e-commerce website. That was the idea. And we created the app and started knocking doors of all those big e-commerce companies. And it didn't really work out as expected. But since we were staying together in an apartment, one of our co-founder came to us and said, "Why don't we try this same thing for cooking? Because we are facing a typical issue of what to cook with what to have." So the idea is simple. You grab whatever items you want to cook and snap images of it, and the app will suggest you recipes. So we created a simple prototype and we uploaded to Google Play Store. So the name of the app, because when we upload the app to Play Store, we decide the name. So it's a cooking app. So we put a name as like recipe book. So that's how we named the app. And we uploaded that to the store, and we started continuing our work on e-commerce visual search, and we have been doing that. And slowly, the download starts coming in. People were having fun playing around with snapping images, getting recipes, and stuff like that. And then slowly, the download starts coming. And then one day we got an email from Google saying that we would like to feature your app in the front page of Google Play Store. And we made some changes, and we got featured in the front page of Google. And download starts coming in quite fast. And we easily close like 500,000 downloads and all those things. But we are not sure about working completely on recipe book. So we are there. And maybe this was in December 2015. We uploaded the app. By April, March, we got again email from Google saying that we would like to make your app as an editor's choice app for Google Play Store, where editor's choice is a tag you get to app developers or a particular apps. So yeah. So then Google Editor's Choice was like one of the big thing happened to us, where we easily closed 1 million downloads. And in fact, in Google I/O conference, they came to the Google team from California. They came to our place, Kochi, and then they shoot a video which was played in Google I/O conference. Maybe I can start sharing my screen with that video. 1 second. Yeah. So this was the team I had back then. I mean, most of the people are still there with me right now. Yeah, 1 second. So this was the video. India has a completely different cooking culture. We believe in sustainability, we always try to make use of what we have rather than searching for something else to complete a recipe. Our app is actually an extension of that. We had a problem in cooking, identifying good recipes with what we have. My co-founder came out with an idea. He told that why don't we try artificial intelligence in a simple app. Recipe book is a cooking app. You open up your fridge and take an image, shake your phone. You will get all the recipes which could be made out of ingredients inside. What we want to do in the future, our app should identify the taste and the likes of people, to recommend the right recipes to people. You cannot imagine a world without developers, because whatever you're using and gadget you're using, there's a developer behind it, each and every product you're using. We believe developers are problem solvers in the world. We were quite small then. We were like a team of like 6 members then, and all these things create a lot of mileage for a recipe book app. And then and the download starts coming in. People start noticing us. We came into a lot of news and media and all those stuff. And then we applied to Y Combinator. So Y Combinator is a world's one of the biggest accelerator programs. So all these companies like Dropbox, Airbnb, and all those things came out of that YC. And we applied to YC, and we got into the interview round of YC. YC is more like NID. You have an interview round, and then you selected to the final startups. So we went to I mean after this Google I/O conference, we got into YC interview, and me and with my 2 other co-founders, we flew to San Francisco for the interview. And YC really liked our idea. I mean, what we have been building, but they were not really convinced about our business model, how we make revenue out of a simple cooking app. And we got a feedback that you should take your computer vision or the recognition part out and start building solutions for enterprises. So that's how we started something called Food Vision API. It's basically a recognition API for enterprises. So, for example, companies working on smart appliances, or whoever has a requirement of recognizing an image, food image, they can use our technology in the background to do that. So we came back to India, and then we started working on this Food Vision API. That's what we call them. We started approaching companies after that. And we built that as a solution, and then we were figuring out whom to meet to. And then I came across Pranav Mistry, who was the VP of Samsung, who was from Ahmedabad, who was a designer before. I was not really connected to him, but I was a friend in Facebook. So I messaged him in Facebook. I mean, one of the qualities we got after NID is that I got a confidence to try all those random moonshots to get into somewhere. So, I mean, getting a Google support from a project was one of them. The second one was trying to get connected to Pranav Mistry. So I randomly messaged him on Facebook saying that I am a NID alumni, because Pranav really knows about NID, and he was really supportive in that. So I shared whatever work we have been doing, and the demo video of our recognition engine and stuff. And he liked what we have been doing, and he invited us to Samsung Mountain View office in California, where we showcased our recognition tech to Samsung. So Samsung was building a smart refrigerator, which is called Family Hub refrigerator, which has cameras inside. So what happens is that if you go to a supermarket, you can open your phone and see what all things are there in your fridge. So with our recognition tech, Samsung could suggest recipes to users. That was the idea, and we did a proof of concept with Samsung then. And we did three proof of concept with Samsung. First one was this, and then Samsung's made a smart oven where they have cameras inside. So if you keep some food item inside the oven, the oven can recognize the food item and preset the oven settings accordingly. And we did that with the team in Delhi, Samsung research team in Delhi. And the third one was third project was which actually got commercialized. So the POC was about the Samsung has something called Bixby Vision. It's basically from Samsung smartphone camera, you can trigger an like a visual search engine. So you open Samsung camera and click Bixby Vision, and you show it against food items. The app will suggest you recipes. So that thing was powered by a recipe book for a long time. Samsung has preloaded this thing into 4 million smartphones in India, and we have been getting. By the time recipe book was growing, we crossed 1 million downloads, 2 million downloads, and things like that. But one thing really happened in the background was we have been getting a lot of images from users, like when they upload. When they search for something. So we use all those things as for building our computer vision system. So because we had largest number of food images, especially related to refrigerators and kitchen environment, and Samsung really liked that idea because we had a lot of images who can build a strong recommendation engine for computer vision. So that project also went well, and that's a one. And then after that, it's been a good time, and I moved to then similar time we got applied to Google Launchpad. Google Launchpad is similar to YC. It's an accelerator program powered by Google, and once you get into Google Launchpad, Google will invest in your company, and they'll take you to San Francisco, and then they'll train for like a couple of months, and it was in 2017 I went to San Francisco, and after Google Launchpad I decided to stay back in San Francisco because it's a good place to grow your business. And whatever you've been building, like a computer vision solution, there was not much companies in India to use our technology. So I from 2017 I have been spending most of the time in San Francisco. After Google Launchpad, I took a small apartment and started staying there. And slowly, I found few companies there who have been using. So other companies other than Samsung who are using our tech is like there is a big startup who have been working on smart appliances. It's called June Oven, and we worked a lot with them. And I slowly started a small office in San Francisco. It is more like a WeWork office, and now we have like a member of four team members are there in San Francisco who is technically marketing and selling my product. And then along with that, so I have now I think around 30-member team working in Kochi in our office who is building this thing. And we have a couple of clients in US who have been using our tech and all those things. So yeah, this is what I've been doing. And for me, what I learned from NID has really helped me to growing my startup. So you can see the difference. Before NID, I was more really closed about my thinking. But the fundamental thing I learned from NID is that explore as much as you can, learn new things, and be open-minded on whatever things you're doing. So that's what helped me to do many of these things. I mean, I just started. I'll be doing. I have bigger plans for coming years. So yeah, that's all my story. I had a couple of my images, but it was not really contextual to show here. But I can quickly jump into that and finish that as well. So yeah. So this was the image when we went to YC, Y Combinator interview, and this is when we got into Google Launchpad and all those images. And then I came back to India in 2017. I got invited to Rashtrapati Bhavan for an event which I got a chance to meet the Honorable President of India, where a few startups from India were selected to who were working on deep tech core artificial intelligence, and they were invited for the event, and I was part of it. And then this is my small office in Stanford. That's my colleague there. And this is my office in Kochi. Like a new office I was about to move in, and all those things happened. This is my team back in Kochi who have been working hard working for all my efforts we've been doing. So yeah, this is pretty much about my story, and like this is what I've been doing. So yeah, I mean, I would like to open to questions. I mean, I would like to more like interact with you, or I'd like to know more about what you guys are building and things like that. So, but one thing I would like to focus more is like this is a good time to do something by your own. I mean, there's of course there's a crisis around COVID, but almost all the opportunities comes when the crisis is prevail. So and there is and the VC ecosystem and the funding ecosystem in India has also been matured, and it's very easy to get a fund for things we have been building. And if you look at there are a lot of name for IITs and IIM for in startup ecosystem, and we see even NID. We have very brilliant entrepreneurs in NID, but very less in the startup space, or very less known in the startup space. But NID people has a very basic instinct of entrepreneurs within them, because what we learn through our design process and design thinking is very relevant to an entrepreneur who are building a startup. So I would like to see a lot more entrepreneurs coming out of NID and saying that like IIM and IITs, NID also should be in top list of VCs, so that it will be helpful for other people to do. So that's what I would like to. That's a small story of what I've been doing. I'm glad that I don't know whether it make sense to all or it was interesting for you, but it's what I've done for the last couple of years. Yeah. Yeah, that's what. So if you have some questions, I would like to speak on it. Yeah. Hi, Bob. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting, Anoop. So let's ask if anyone want to interact. Anyone want to interact? You can do the raise hand button in the right side, and we'll get you on stage. Hmm. Yes, we have Yasin. Okay. Yeah, Yasin.
Hello, hi. I'm back. Right.
Sorry. Yasin, can you do that again?
Yeah, I saw. I mean, Yasin has put that question in the chat. Yeah, so he has asked, your company has 3 product offering. How did you decide to work on multiple projects and not only one? So I mean, the reason was like all these 3 product was connected behind. So recipe book was the first product, and then so recipe book, whatever things which are happening in recipe book is actually powering our enterprise solution. So all the image recognition stuff we have been doing is being powered by the images uploaded by recipe book. For us, it's all helping to each other. So we didn't want, so in startup life, in startup world, you need to focus on something all the time. So yes, all these things are 3 different things, but since it was helping each other, so we didn't have no other options to
Right.
pursue 3 this product together.
Right.
That's so, and so the second one is more like an enterprise thing, and this is one question we always get when we go for funding with investors, and this is how we convince them. But maybe in the future we might separate these companies, or we'll sell one of these companies off to someone else so that we can focus on one thing. We are in the process in that. I mean, doing that. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So one more thing I would like to add, like leading retailers in India, Big Basket. They are building a cashless store like Amazon Go in Bangalore, and which is powered by our technology. We are working on that right now, where you go into a store, you grab some food item, and you can leave, and all the computer vision tech is provided by us.
Oh, nice.
Oh, great, great.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a question from Advait.
Hi, Anoop.
Hi, Abhi.
It was so lovely to see your work. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
So, my
yeah.
question was regarding the thesis project you did.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you mentioned Google helped you with the funding
Yeah.
for your project,
Yes, yes.
and it was, I think, more of a research-based project, and things were very new at the time regarding autonomous cars.
True, true, true,
Yeah.
true.
So, did Google had any expectations from your side that this should be a level till you have to deliver, or were they expecting a specific outcome from you, or it was not like that?
Not really, because they don't really know about all those. So Google has a they has a support program for students back then, where they support for interesting PhDs and research projects they have been doing. So the problem with my project was it was this autonomous car project was done by Google X Labs.
Yeah.
It was a separate company. And since we had some connections in Google India, they really helped us to. They told that you can redeem your travel bills and your hotel stays for this project. So you can send that to Google and they'll reimburse. So the gadgets I purchased for the project, like and then the travel and the stay was actually funded by them. So it was not like an official thing where they funded a student. They really liked what I've been doing, and then they supported me the expenses I made. And at the end when I was in US, I went to Google X Labs and I presented my work with the team who have been building the autonomous car, and they were really surprised the way the things work in India. And I got a lot of I got a lot of appreciation from their team for the work I
Right.
did.
Right. Right. So it was more like a support from them, and they were expecting the ongoing things happening, which you
Yeah,
were
yeah.
helping them with.
They would like to explore. It was they were not
Yeah.
expecting anything from me, but there was a lot of complications. For example, in NID, I tried registering that project as a sponsored project from Google,
Huh.
and since Google, I mean, NID has a lot of things about getting a letter from the employer and from the company, and all those things were there, and it was really tough. So then I registered the project as a self-sponsored project with NID, and I did my project.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, any new questions? Okay. Till people. Yes, we have a question from Parishrut. Okay.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, Parishrut.
Okay. Hey Anoop, hi. Nice to
Hi,
see you
Pankaj.
after such a long time, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a long time. Yeah,
Hey, so I have two questions. Okay, and
yeah.
so I have a understand like a very raw summary of what I understood. So don't mind if it seems a bit naive.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
so it sounds like, just correct me where I'm wrong. So it sounds to me that you had a few curiosities about a few things that you could build, and then you made them, and then after you made them, they became you realized they were how useful they were, or how you could market them to other people who could use them,
Yes, yes, yes.
and that's how the cycle started and
Yeah.
got you where you are. Is that something like how it actually happened?
Yeah. I think that's there's a part of luck into it. Now I realize that if you want to do a startup, you should start from a problem. So for what we did, the mistake you see multiple products and all those things is definitely because we started with the technology piece and we're looking for searching for problems, and we're trying to fit into a problem where they can solve it. So that's why it took us like multiple projects to land into few things. So whenever we're working on a startup, I would strongly suggest to start with a problem and then do a proper user research and then do build things. So for us, it was more like building a technology and then looking for a solution. But now, since it was a niche space and there wasn't much competitors out there in that market, that's one reason we could sustain there. But the new projects we have been building or new things we have been working on, it's in the other way. We are searching for a problem and then we are using our technology for that.
Okay. One more question. Can you share some interesting conversations that you had with all these investors?
I mean, a lot of
From the perspective that, like, me and probably a few other people might not have any idea about what happens inside that room.
I have done to so till date I have raised around close to $1 million from India and from US, and I have been to VC meetings in India and abroad, and like there are a lot of interesting questions you come across, and the world is a lot different than what you always perceive from outside. I mean, in India. In India, people doesn't understand the technology or the kind of work you do. They generally look into how much money it can generate and how they don't see a long term thing in most of the I would say angel investors than VCs, where I have I have pitched I think more than 500 or 700 VCs in India and abroad. I mean, it was not like going for fun now, but it was part of our life. Like we go and meet these people, and so the number I got from I used to maintain a Excel sheet where whoever I talk to and what's the progress just to track between them. But so in US it's pretty much different. So if they like something, they will invest. So one of our investors right now is that he's a VP of Walmart from US. So he has invested around 400,000 USD in our company, and I had like 2 or 3 meetings just to get that. In India, initial 25 lakhs I raised after meeting maybe around 50 investors, and out of that, the guy who invested, I had maybe 3 or 4 months I was behind him to put that initial 30 lakhs. So that's the difference. Those in US, they tend to experiment a lot on funding. They invest on the team rather than what they're building. So we are quite lucky in terms, even though we didn't have a proper product market fit when we get funding, but the people like the work we have been doing, and we are doing partnership with all big companies. Like we partnered with Samsung, IKEA. We did a project with IKEA restaurant, then Capgemini, and all those people are using our tech, and we're generating some revenues out of it. But then also our product market fit was not ready, but investors in US was ready to explore or take a risk on investing in us.
So you are saying that, like, correct me if I heard it right. In India, the VC environment focuses on the technology and your, like, what short-term vision you have.
Yeah. So in India, more than technology, they look into how you generate revenue and how fast you can generate revenue. If you look at the other way, is that how long the startup could sustain, and they look for a long-term goal. So my suggestion is that if you are building a startup, go through these programs like good accelerator and programs and incubator programs like apply to YC, apply to 500 startups, apply to. In India, there is a very interesting startup program now popping up. It's Secure Search. It's a very interesting program where you can, even at the seed stage, you can get applied to it and you can showcase your startup. So rather than going behind investors a lot in the beginning stages, get some money from your friends and family and your people nearby, and create a prototype of your product which is working, which you can showcase, and apply to these accelerator programs, which will save a lot of your time. As a small company, if you randomly go back and see for investors, you'll waste a lot of time. Even I wasted a lot of time doing that. There's no point of wasting time there. You build something, apply to all this accelerator program, you get into something of that, and then you build your product properly there, and then apply to bigger VCs.
Cool. We have, yeah. So we have 3 questions from Dania. She's on mobile, so I'll just read for you.
Okay.
Yeah, she's asking, adding to Yasin's question, while we understand how it is in startup world, but could you speak about your elevator pitch for the VCs? That is the first question.
Okay.
Second, she want to know more about your experience with VCs. And third, what about the idea to try Shark Tank?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, nice. I think I'll answer on the last question. The Shark Tank is more made for entertainment, and it's not really the world where the VC works. Like, it's a nice idea to get you exposed to many people at a go. But the investment you get from the startup is not a proper VC investment, as I understand. Even though they are investors, but it's basically it's different world, but it's not difficult. Shark Tank, it's more made more like for entertainment, but it's different in the other world. Our elevated pitch for when we were raising a fund was like we are building a computer vision solution for enterprises. Where anyone can build computer vision solutions connected to their product easily and effectively. That was my first pitch when I was raising a fund. For Recipe Book, we haven't raised any fund. When we started working on our computer vision for enterprises, we started raising fund. It was a very bland pitch then, but because of all the recognitions we got at that time, we got VC funding. I would say that's a good pitch. But now I know that how to pitch to an investor. So pitch to an investor should be very precise and specific of what you've been pitching. They should know what you're building. You should not use any buzzwords in that particular pitch line. You should specifically say that I am building so and so for so and so people, and this is what is better than the existing solution. That as simple as that. You should have so two kind of information deck. One is like a short deck which will get their interest, so you can randomly send out to these people, and then you will have a detailed deck. A detailed deck in the sense like how you do make money, how you're going to grow your business. And so it should have every factors about your startup you thought out should be listed there. That should be a detailed information deck. So when you talk to people, you can talk with the elevator pitch and send that deck to them. And if they found interesting, they'll come back to you, and then you can send the detailed deck with all those information.
Nice. Anyone else? Parishut has one more question.
Yeah, sure.
Parishut, you want to ask? Yeah, he's joining.
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can.
Yeah. Hey, Anoop, you remember Sandy?
Yes, I know. Yeah.
So, like, what we never had a class with him, but what I remember is that, like, the impression that he had was that he'll push you around and he'll curse you and he'll bring your entire mentality to the real world. Like, dude, this is how it is, not how you think.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about any personality like that who you met in the VC world or somewhere around who always brings your entire team and your mentality to the real world and tells you, dude, this is not how it works. This is
there are so many people like Sandy in the investment world. I remember when I was in Google Launchpad, we had a mentor called Hai Hubbard. He is an Israeli person. And so the best thing he'll do is that he will embrace you in the crowd and all the time with your work. And initially you'll be little laid back. I mean, oh, you'll become sad about why this person is always doing that. But that time I remember, oh, this person is like, I mean, few of my people I met in NID, and then I have seen so many people like that. I would say in India there are so many. I mean, people who really push you to get your best thing out of it, and they'll. It's not like they'll try to poke you every time. Like they'll try to find things which won't work in your startup than what actually works. So they'll ask all these random questions like which is like which will feel like whenever I go to pitch to an VC, most of the time I get the question like, oh, so you are going to fight with companies like Google and this thing with computer vision. You are a small company with few people. How are we going to fight with those companies? So those kind of things will come, and they'll make you feel that, oh, you everything you're doing it wrong and things like that. But actually these people are again helping us to motivating us to build something good and fight. I mean, there are so many things. I don't want to take names for all those people, but there are so many people like that in the VC world.
Take one name. No, I intend to follow that one person just to see what he's up to in life.
I mean,
You should,
I would say Rajan Anandan is something like that.
Rajanathan.
Rajan Anandan, he's the head of Secure Surge now, and he's the kind of he'll encourage you with what you're doing, but he's a person with numbers. He will ask the right numbers to you so that you will get your startup thing right. You should follow him. You should start seeing his talks in YouTube. There are so many talks he has been doing. He's been making. He's that kind of person. I have pitched him a couple of times, and even if I had a good experience with him, and he has even praised our startup in multiple of his speeches. But he is the guy you should look into. There are so many people like that, but Rajanathan is the one name I would like to put forward for you.
Can you spell out his name?
I can in the chat box. You can check. He was the head of Google before. Rajan.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
we have a question from Nitin.
Hi, Nitin.
Hey, hi Anoop. First
Hi.
of all, amazing work you have been doing around for the last. I've been hearing from, Anand.
Oh,
We've been
yeah.
quite in touch. So,
Yeah.
one other thing that I wanted to ask, like pitching in general has been a really crucial part for all our designer and design field, and most in NID also we have been our juries and many things that's happening. But pitching in the real world scenario is quite different from what we see here.
Mhm.
Most of the people we pitch don't understand what the terminology is and what the kind of thinking that we are doing in an abstract field, and or the new type of meaning that you're trying to figure out. So how can you prepare, like when you prepare a certain deck or you prepare a certain presentation, how to go around with different kinds of mindsets of people or different investors, or whenever there is a jury panel, there will be 6 to 7 people or 5 people sitting with their different ideologies. How do you go around with the similar deck and to fit in all the same pockets?
So I would say, I mean, jury is something which we can relate to with the VC. So always these VC pitches doesn't take place like that. So usually what happens is that when you send an email to, so usually this referral is the one thing really work in the VC world. So the best thing to reach to a VC is that go find a startup who was invested by the same VC and make that startup founder as a mentor to a company and ask that startup founder to refer you to the VC. That's the best way to reach VC rather than sending email or reaching. So once you get introduced to a VC, then what it happens is that they will invite you for a coffee or a lunch or at their office there for a meet. So you go there with your deck and you casually introduce what you've been doing and what you've been. So the best thing VC wants is that they want to, it's not in the deck, they want to see what you're doing. They want to see the videos of your working prototype, how users are using it, and they don't want to know everything at the first meeting, but it should be more like a precise version of what you're building and what would be the future of what you're building, and very very simple things like maybe 5-6 slides would be enough. And even you can talk with. I mean, there are so many instances where people have raised money with just a piece of paper explaining what they've been doing. So there is no one single rule where you can follow and get funding for. So I would suggest you, like, there are so many random things you heard about hear about startup being startup
Yeah.
world in India. There are so many programs which is really wasting a lot of your time I mean, random startup GAN, I would say. The best way to prepare for a startup is that you should do something like, there's something called startup school, YC startup school, where it will help you to create a startup properly. Startup school is that you should enroll to startup school. It's like a program where you can learn how to build a product. So without a product, there is no point of building a business model or business things and stuff like that. So you need to create a product in the first place. So startup school is the best way to learn. Only two things startup school is asking you to do. Like it's startup school is run by Y Combinator. So one is talk to users and build your product, nothing else. Before going to VCs or investment or anything, talk to your users who are building a solution and then build your product. And then once you get your product thing right and you feel that people are using it, people are happy with the product, then you go to investors and show your product. This is what I'm doing. This is what we are building, and things like that. That would be the best way to approach for funding. And and there are so many people in India uh, saying software investors wasting your time. They just listen to you, and before going to investor, you need to look into their profile, like what sector they are investing, how long they have been active. And there are people who have been saying they're investors, but they haven't done any investors for the past 10 years. 10 years, then that guy is not an investor. He must have invested in one part of company, and he is not doing that anymore. But he would like to see and listen to startup how people are doing. That's why he will waste a lot of your time. So whenever you go to meet an investor, see whether he is actively participating in investments. Is he part of big investment groups and all those things? And is he investing in startups in your space, so that there are interest in for investors. They'll invest into particular spaces they are really comfortable with. So go behind investors who are investing. So best way to find out of that is find out your competitor companies and see the companies who are investing in that competitive companies, and see those investors and look for competitive investors for that investor. That's the best way to get your funding.
Oh, so
Yeah.
great. Thanks a lot.
And I think raising funding is the easiest thing when you have a good product. So building good product is more difficult than finding an investor. Initially, we'll think that finding the investor is the most difficult thing. Once you have good product and you have natural traction, you will get automatically visible to the tools which investors are using. For example, there's a tool called Traction, which has been used by a lot of the investors. So whenever you have an app, your app is getting downloads and you're getting recognized in all those newspapers, this will automatically come to their mind and they will start talking to you rather than you going behind them. So once you have a good product, they will come to you. There is no mind that they will come to you. That's what I believe.
Thanks a lot for that.
Yeah.
We have Ashish.
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah.
Hi, Anoop. So it's really interesting to hear your journey. It's really informative and inspiring. So I'm a student of NID TED 2020. So
Okay.
I'm in first year, and my question is related to TED actually. So in final year, we do have choice, like to go for making car exteriors, interiors, or different mobility solution. But as you said, you went for the autonomous cars, which was not that exposed that time,
Okay.
and it was not the only car but the whole system you were like dive into for research. So
Okay.
there must be some risk like may have involved that at that time, like as far as outcome is concerned.
Okay.
So as a student, which area we should more focus on, like when we choose our final thesis project or any project during the study, like where the right learning involved, go
Okay.
for the system based mobility solution or just design sketching cars exteriors and those, like from Indian perspective I just want to know, like while
Yeah. So I would say what happened to me in that particular time. So it's basically it's all about what you want to do. If you want to do a startup, it's a fundamental thing about startup is taking risk. And if you want to get a job in an automotive OEM, definitely you need to have a proper thesis project with which will showcase your skill set. But when you decided I have some freedom to take a risk. My family can afford to do that for a couple of months or a couple of years. So I would urge you to find a project which will, because this thesis project is a really good way to learn a lot by yourself. Because if you find a right mentor, you can explore whatever things around that, and you can learn a lot of things by yourself. If you're doing a proper research project or you're building out a startup, thesis project is a good way to create a startup. I think if you decide to do a startup, take your thesis project as your startup brief and then start working on it. The best way, because I know my friends doing that. Vishnu. Vishnu is the co-founder of Eve Labs. I think the startup he's working on is a medical equipment startup, and he started as his project. I'm not sure whether it's his project, but as a project as an NID, and he's still working on that. So I would say it's all about what you want to do. If you want to do a startup, just take this as your opportunity and go behind that. Go behind that. And if you want to go into a job, you can do the other way.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Yeah.
I had one more question with Parishut, like he's saying, does a startup school also help with funding during? Startup school has this build sprint. That's what they call. They run that in a couple of yearly thrice or twice, where you compete with a few startups within the batch, and the final startup get a 20,000 or $10,000 as a grant. It's not a funding; it's a grant. That's what startup thing do. But the best thing is that if you go through a startup school, it's easy to land into YC as a major pro. So YC is an investor asset. So if you get into YC, you can just after startup school you can apply for YC, and YC will invest like around $125,000 into a startup, and at the end of YC, the demo day, you can raise a couple of millions through that program. So that's how it works. Mohammad Yassin has asked one more question, like, do you have any issues showing a founder market fit while pitching recipes? So for us, for recipe book, before going to funding, we had enough traction. So we had more than 1 million downloads and people have been using it. So only problem we had is that we are not making enough revenues from that. So we fundamentally made revenues from our enterprise version of the product. We didn't have any issues in founder market fit because people like this interdiscipline thing a lot now. So you have done transportation or industrial design and then you are going to something else. But many of the VCs like this interdisciplinary skill, so that people come from some other background, still they have done something, they would like to appreciate that. So founder market fit wasn't a big issue for us, but it's an issue because NID is not really well known in the VC ecosystem. So that thing is there, but now it's changing. Now people are, we have good founders like Narayan Subramaniam and all those people are there out there in the market who have been raising a lot of money. So things are changing, and we'll see how it will come. Yeah.
I have a question, Anoop. Like now you have an office in like San Francisco, and also like you're working from India as well. So like, how is your experience in terms of how is the work or how people approach design? Like, is there anything that you explored like you didn't expect it? Yeah.
Yes, people in San Francisco, they appreciate a lot in your design. Even a simple design you do on your pitch deck is getting appreciated there. So in my work, what happened is that what I generally do in San Francisco is that I have 3 more other people there who are working with me. So they'll pitch into all those appliances, OEMs, and bigger enterprises for our solution. And our solution is something like a background technology which lies inside some other product or whatever. So we are like a background service provider. In that time, it's very hard to explain what you're doing and what you're thinking. So when you try to explain that through illustrations and things, and that really gets appreciated there. So what I really do is that we have a designer in house, so he'll be designing all our creatives, which really explains what our technology is different from others and things like that. So that's one thing really helped us. So being a designer, those kind of things actually helped me. And apart from my startup, in the early days, when I was working on my startup, I didn't have enough money to sustain. So I had consulted few industrial design projects and all those things. So that really helped me to, pursue my. It helped us to not lose my design skills or things like that. So I would say in San Francisco, it's a lot more appreciated than in India, but it's nice.
Okay. We have Sukanya. Just a second.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Anoop, good to see you.
Yeah,
It's been really long.
Yeah.
And thank you for such a crisp, very honest presentation about your experiences. I think I want a suggestion on something. Some people actually contacted me and they wanted to know if they wanted to build an app for their company in India.
Okay.
How should they go about it? Because they have no idea and they want to start. So, and just an interactive app, like maybe a dating app or something similar to that.
Okay. So there are so many do-it-yourself app platforms right now available in the market. I forgot the name for those things, but there are so many of such where you can simply make a dummy app and make your users get an experience of, or get a gist of what you're building. So I would say first we make something like that with those kind of platforms, and then or mockups. You can make mockups through InVision and all those platforms where you can create your design and then you mock it up, and then you start showing that to users and get their early feedback. And once you freeze your product, like you decided this is what you're doing, this is how the users want to react to that, then you can start reaching out to freelance app developers who can build app for you. And building an app, it's all about if you go to a service company and ask them to develop an app, they will ask a lot of money. Instead, you find someone who will be like a freelance designer or app developer, or someone from the like you have a lot of networking, startup networking things where you can find people who are making app for their learning and things like that. So usually from, like, I can relate to something like, if you're in NID, you will find a lot of those people in DIC, which is nearby college. To find those people to create an early app and you start testing with users. And then once you have some users, once traction, you can go for investors, take some money, and hire proper people to build the product. So don't spend a lot of time going to a service company, building an app, because when you build a startup, things will change very quickly, and you need to change your app very often. So if you pay for each work you do, you end up spending a lot of money and time there.
I understand. Yeah.
So first thing you could try is that do-it-yourself platform where you can simply build apps, or something like a mock-up platforms where you can mock up the experience of the app. And then you find a simple person to build that, and then you test it with users, and then you raise fund, and then build the proper app. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll
So,
get in touch.
Sure.
Ron as well.
Long time. I'm waiting for your session next week.
Oh yeah, see you
It's
there.
tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
tomorrow. Sorry.
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So what time is it there? Is it it's 10:30 in the night right now over there
11.
where you're
Oh,
staying?
Anoop is in Kerala right now.
Oh, Anoop is in Kerala. Oh, you came back. Okay.
I'm at home now. I came back. So I spent like 3-4 months in Kerala and then rest of time in US. But due to this COVID and I came back here and also I had a baby girl few months ago.
Yes, I saw adorable pictures just yesterday.
Yeah. So I want to spend some time here, so I came back here.
It's good you're back home.
And now doesn't matter even if I sit here or if I sit in San Francisco. There's nothing different.
Everyone's working from home. That's true.
Yeah. So once the situation changes, I'll go back.
All right. Thank you. See you
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, Parishud and one more question. What is it really?
We have Chaitanya before that. Chaitanya is there.
Yeah.
Chaitanya asked.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Hi, Anoop. Good to see you. Good to see everyone.
Yeah.
I'll just get right to it. So I wrote the question that I wrote here was that are Indian startups lacking in presentation?
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking aesthetically and regarding business intentions. I'll explain what I mean by that.
Okay.
Is the Indian market, the majority of it, appreciative of presentation first of all,
Yeah.
or will price always dominate the customer choice? So what I'm trying to ask is, as you said, when you go abroad and you try to show them any new design idea, they're very receptive of it, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking to Santosh also, Santosh Lakota,
Yeah.
and they have come up with a product of their own. But when they discussed with their mentors in IIT Madras, the logo designs, I'm just giving a small example of logo designs. The ones that they came up with were directly outright rejected by them, and they suggested something very, very simple, because the customer base that they were aiming for was farmers.
Okay.
So obviously the customer base matters, but that is why I'm asking the majority of the Indian market. I don't know what that is. Is it the rural? Is it the now upcoming economy? What would you say?
I would say it's all depend on the people who are talking to. So design is always even in India, if you have a good design, they do accept. But certain people who has their own version of the aesthetics, so they'd like to put the Sandoz example could be behind that. But I would say, as a designer, what we are lot more obsessed with the design and the way we put forward things. But I would say the things which we lack is basically how the business is going to evolve, how it's going to be big, and how it's going to get returns to investor. So most of the cases, our presentations are very neat in terms of what you're showing, and it will have all those things. Like it will have everything related to user, their behavior, how they use it, and the product will be explained really well. But usually, what happens is that we are not really trained in creating business models and placing those things across. So if you search for very easy models are there. Like if you search for Airbnb business model, or there's an interesting business model by Danso, which is written in simplified or some website. It's very nice. Where designers can easily convey those things very aesthetically, but we don't really spend a lot of time in creating that. So I would ask everyone to spend little thought on about the business, how the business would evolve, how the business would make money. So, for example, everything has a very simple unit metrics. For example, you tried and tested with a couple of bunch of uses, and you created this value for that. For that value, this was the return you got in terms of money, and how that will scale with all your users, how big it can scale. And those kind of things are really missing in most of the decks, especially prepared by business people. So aesthetics is important, but almost all these VCs are interested to see that part, like how your business is going to make money, how it's going to scale, how you match against competitors and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one key thing we always, even I missed in most of my previous presentations.
Okay. I think I can get back to this question after Parishruth if we have time.
Yeah.
Yes,
No,
we
don't
have
go ahead.
15 more minutes. Then we'll close. Yeah. So Parishruth, one more question.
No, I'll come later. I'm asking questions now only because Bhargav is pushing.
Oh, okay. Chaitanya, you can continue.
Okay, I was just eating something. Okay. So I think my question was more product oriented. So that is why it might have a little difference in what. So I understand what you're trying to say, that a business model needs to be explained better than the presentation aspects of it.
Okay.
And VCs will be more interested in understanding that.
Mhm.
But getting it to the customer, I'm more.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Now I got the question.
So, for example, just a second. So, like, let's say I want to make something for the rural, right?
Okay.
Should I invest my time as a designer and in growing my startup? Should I invest a valuable time of it into refining the aesthetics or the presentative aspects of it?
I mean, aesthetics works like even if it's in rural India, but the taste would be different. So I would say I can relate that a lot with. I remember talking to one of our NID senior or batchmate. His name is Ram.
Okay.
He runs a design studio, and he has clients, although almost big FMCG price his clients. And one time he was speaking about exactly this thing. Like he was building a product packaging for rural India, and the strategy is the brief was given to his client was from his client was he need to create a product like it's like essential product like soaps and detergents and stuff, and so they make very cheap or very low cost or cost effective items for rural India. So they don't want they ask the designer specifically that I don't want to make my product look like a premium one. I want to do the product which is like for made for rural Indian people. So they intentionally made that packaging lot more. I won't say lot more busy with not many items in the package, not many colors and all those things, which we generally doesn't do. And so that kind of contextual design thing exists. So if you're doing something for rural India, you might want to think about those things. Like if you're building a product, there should be some kind of aesthetics which those users really appreciate. They might not appreciate very simple, very polished, very luxury kind of stuff. They would rather appreciate the other way. So that's the best way I can explain to your answer. There is those kind of nuances you need to look at.
Okay. So, Bhargav, can I ask another question if it's okay?
Yes, since no one is asking, you can go ahead.
And Anoop, is it okay if my question is more business oriented?
Yeah, just ask, I guess.
So another question was, now you're dealing with transactions in India also and business itself in India also and abroad also, right? In San Francisco.
Yeah.
So have you tried to balance out, is it first of all a priority? Have you tried to balance out the outcomes or the whatever benefits are generated from your company, how much it is utilized by India or how much it is utilized by the host country? Should we try to find that balance? Or
It's very difficult. So one thing I would say is that the pricing is quite different. For example, the kind of services we do in US, the kind of money we get there, and the money we get from India is quite a lot of difference. For example, the work we get like 50,000 USD for 6 months. The same thing you can get maximum 10 or 20,000 USD in India. So at least 5 or 10 times difference is there. So the kind of service you do there and here vary because of that. Because we can spend a little more time into that. You can refine that. You can give much more better experience there than in India. Because here, for example, the project we are working with Indian players, like so they tend to ask more in less price. In US, once their problem is solved, they're not really worried a lot about pricing. They just want to get that thing solved. But in India, there'll be negotiation at every stage where they started using it. They'll try to fit in all those things into the agreement so that you end up not getting much money from that thing. So
But India surely has a lot of numbers. So to access those numbers, do we need to radically change the product?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a fundamental difference.
Okay.
So I was talking in terms of my thing. So that's why people are interested in India market, even though the price per product would be less, but the customers would be more, and the kind of things. For us, it was a little different because we didn't have a lot of customers in India. That's why we focused the other way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. It's nice.
Okay, we can, I think, now conclude. It's like 1 hour, 20 minutes. So I think we'll keep 1.5 hour as our maximum time. It will be good for long term for everyone.
Yeah.
So, Arvind, would you like to summarize?
Yeah.
Vote of thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bhargav, thank you for coming up with this idea by people for people through Polygon. Every time. Anoop, that was a very fascinating market-facing journey of a designer, and we learned a lot. You mentioned a couple of names of people who have done some good work in the field of design. So for sure, we will reach out to them. We will try to host them in these sessions. Participants, we are testing this platform, AirMeet. It has got some interesting features also. So we have named the uh, uh, sections as Kopcha or Sanjay. So you can have a quick nostalgia trip through these interactions. And
before, this is before the session starts.
So
yeah,
cool. And we are super excited to meet next speaker tomorrow, and let us see how it goes. So thank you all again. See you tomorrow.
Great.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Anoop. Really insightful. I think there are a lot of new students also, and they would also want to do some things. So in the future, once we have more people like you who have done these sessions, we'll try to keep a group discussion kind of thing. People can ask, share their idea, and it's like you all.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that once in a while. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, everyone. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.